marriage has come down to intention, effort, and choice. Choosing to communicate, to repair, and choosing to keep growing rather than staying stuck when it gets hard. Well, hello, my friend, and thank you for joining me today. My name's Jo Clark, and I'm the host and creator of the Redefining Midlife podcast. If this is your first time that you're listening to my podcast, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is actually going to be a little bit of an indulgent episode today, but it's one that I've been looking forward to sharing with you. You see, just a few weeks ago, my husband Philip and I celebrated our 30-year wedding anniversary. 30 years, that's over half of my life. And even saying that out loud just feels that little bit surreal. It really doesn't feel that long ago that someone who was 30 seemed ancient. And yet, here we are, 30 years married. Now, everyone has their own love story or stories, and I'd like just to share with you just a bit of a snapshot of ours and the lessons that I've learned from being married for 30 years. And when I think back to myself as a bride at 28, I truly could not have imagined what my life would look like today. Not the places we'd lived, not the challenges that we'd face, nor the depth of love that would grow over time. And standing at that altar, I genuinely didn't think it was possible that I could love him any more than I did at that point in time. And yet, here we are. And somehow, with every passing year, my love has grown. And we met each other at a friend's wedding and we hit it off immediately. Story a lot of people have experienced. But there was just a little issue of us living 8 hours away from each other. You see, Philip was a country boy living and working on his family's remote 60,000 acre property. Now, I grew up in the city, but I'd been working and living in small country towns, so I had a bit of that country feel. Then, as luck would have it, at the time we met, I had the opportunity to work as a principal in a small school near the property. And when I say near, it was actually 50 minutes away. Anyway, I jumped at the chance of a promotion and the amazing opportunity to experience something very few people ever do, and that's living in a remote part of the world. Now, suddenly, all of my familiar life of convenience was replaced with wide open spaces, red dirt, and distances that are really hard to grasp unless you've lived them. Now, our closest neighbours were about 20 minutes away. Our families were more than 800 kilometres away. And there was no popping in for help. There was no nearby support network for us, no backup plan. It was really just us, and everything was new. Our life together, our work, and our future. Eventually, starting a family. But because we were so isolated, we had no choice but to learn how to work as a team. We faced droughts that went on for years. We had poor commodity prices and all of the stress and uncertainty that just comes with life on the land. And yet, looking back now, it really was such a special time. It was hard, yes, but it created a very deep bond between the two of us. When you only have each other, you learn quickly how to communicate, how to solve problems, and how to show up even when you are exhausted or overwhelmed. We were often like a tag team. When one of us was down, the other was able to support and lift us back up. And this was especially true when we started our family, because it really was just us. And over the past 30 years together, we've experienced a full spectrum of life. The highs, the lows, the joy and the heartbreak. Those seasons where everything feels aligned and the ones where you feel like you're just getting through the day. Because life has definitely been lifing over the past 30 years. And recently on the podcast, I spoke with psychotherapist Nikki Grenell, and we talked about those realities that many couples face in long-term relationships, especially in this stage of life. We spoke about disconnection, about responsibility that was weighing heavily on relationships, and also about that high incidence of grey divorce, particularly around midlife women. That conversation really stayed with me because I've also got a number of close friends whose long-term relationships and marriages have ended. So I've seen the devastation that that it can actually cause. But today, I wanted to share another story, and not as a comparison, and not as a, this is how it should be, but simply as another possible reality. What I feel incredibly grateful for is that I have a marriage that feels so solid and grounded. And it's one that's evolved as we've evolved personally, one that's built on deep love and respect, but above all, an incredibly strong friendship. We really genuinely enjoy each other's company. We prioritize joy and also having fun. We seek out new experiences together, and we've always encouraged personal growth, both us as individuals and as a couple. And it doesn't mean it's been easy or that we haven't had those hard seasons. It just means that we've kept choosing each other through them. And every decade of our marriage has looked completely different. And the last 10 years have brought more transitions than ever before. These are just some of the bigger ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Our 2 children finished boarding school and moved to the city for university. We navigated the empty nest and our changing roles as parents to young adults. We celebrated their big milestones, their 21st birthdays, graduations. And we also stood quietly on the sidelines as our children faced those big adult problems for the first time. The heartbreaks, relationship breakups, the fallout of COVID, financial pressures, job uncertainty. And we were learning just when we would step in and when just simply to listen, which has been one of the hardest and most humbling parts of parenting adult children. And at that very same time, we were also walking another path, caring for our mothers as their health declined, being present in their final days, and then experiencing that huge grief of losing them. Grief really has a way of testing relationships because it strips back and it asks you to show up in very real ways. And sometimes love looks like fixing things, and sometimes it just looks like sitting quietly beside each other. And alongside all of this, our own lives were changing too. We sold our property in the country and we moved to the coast, creating an entirely new way of living and being. And if that wasn't enough, I reached professional burnout, and I made the really difficult decision to leave my long-term career. And because of my age, I was also navigating some debilitating symptoms of perimenopause. It's really been a lot. And at the same time, Philip was establishing a new business and finding his feet in a very new environment. And there have been many moments where everything felt uncertain for both of us. And yet we held each other steadily through it. And we also made a conscious decision while all this was happening to keep enjoying life. And travel has played a huge role in that. We've spent over the last 10 years extended time in places like Spain and France, immersing ourselves in brand new cultures, new foods, places, languages, and experiences. Travel and all that comes with it has given us so many special moments and plenty of hilarious moments that we love to talk and reminisce about. And we've also explored our own beautiful country, from the Northern Territory to South Australia and our own local area. Some of the things we've done as a couple include 6 years ago, we learned Vedic meditation together, and that's been an absolute game changer for both of us. We share a love of food, trying new restaurants, cooking classes, wine tasting, even gin making. We go to concerts, we go to rugby games, both here in Australia and overseas. And through all of those shared experiences, we've also, most importantly, given each other space. It's space to follow our own interests, space to grow individually. We're each other's biggest supporters and cheerleaders. And neither of us had parents whose marriages were great examples. But maybe they showed us what we didn't want our own marriage to look like. Now, either way, somehow we've created something incredibly special. And I've also had some people come and say to me, oh, you're so lucky. Yeah, and I agree to a point. There's always an element of luck in meeting the right person. But in our case, For us, our marriage has come down to intention, effort, and choice. Choosing to communicate, to repair, and choosing to keep growing rather than staying stuck when it gets hard. And as I've been reflecting on these last 30 years, I've realised that none of this has been about getting it right or having some kind of perfect formula. What the last 30 years have really taught me personally is that love changes, and that's not something to be afraid of. The love you began with isn't the same as the love you grow into. It's kind of softens, deepens, and steadies over time. And if you allow it to evolve, it can become something incredibly rich and sustaining. And I've learned that friendship is a foundation that carries you through those hardest times. When life's heavy, or when grief arrives, or when change feels relentless, it's been our friendship, laughter, and genuinely liking each other that's kept us connected. And I've also learned that strong relationships don't just happen. So we've tended through them through having some really honest, hard conversations at times, to repair, to have patience, and to choose to come back to each other again and again. So yeah, there've been many hard seasons we've gone through over the years, seasons that stretched us, tested us, and asked more of us than we ever expected. But those seasons didn't mean that we were failing. They meant that we were living a real life together. Midlife and growing older has taught me that change is inevitable and resisting it only creates distance. So facing it together with our openness and a bit of curiosity has just allowed us to grow closer rather than grow apart. And some of our most meaningful memories, they mightn't come from those big milestones or grand gestures. They've just come from sharing experiences, of learning together, of traveling, of trying new things, and just making the conscious decision to prioritize joy. Because long love, I've learned, it's a choice that you make again and again. And perhaps the most beautiful lesson of all is this: midlife is definitely not the end of love. For us, it's been the deepening. It's more calm, more secure, and more joyful. And I feel a deep sense of gratitude for the life that we've built, for the love and the friendship that's deepened rather than faded. And as I said at the start, everyone's love story is unique. This one just happens to be ours. And because you're still here listening until the very end, I want to thank you for letting me indulge in sharing my personal midlife love story with you today. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate, follow, and share it with another incredible midlife woman. And join me next week as we keep creating an amazing second half of life.